know why I feel this way. It's because of the server I love to play. Bring adventure for me every day. Play on the server the TimeShot way.
Hello, people. It's Poet, and we are back on TimeShot. And today, I wanted to talk about. It's not really. Well, okay. I was about to say it's not that important to me, but it is important. It's an important thing, but it doesn't affect me. And so when I want to talk about it, it's not really for me. It's really for others, more or less. But it's a important subject, the subject of depression in general. Now, as I often will do at the beginnings of episodes where I talk about subjects that I have no knowledge in, I want to just kind of put a footnote there that I really do not have knowledge whatsoever, and that if you are feeling depressed, you should seek help from a professional, not from a buffoon like me, because, well, that would just make sense, right? So my opinion on depression is an odd one, because it's very difficult to properly diagnose. And I think that there are a lot of misdiagnoses going along. Misdiagnoses? Misdiagnoses? There's a lot of misdiagnosing going on. In both that there are people who have depression and aren't diagnosed. And those who have depression and or those who don't have depression and have been diagnosed with it incorrectly. And I mean, this is like any mental illness, is that it's extraordinarily difficult to determine what causes it. Is there a cause? Is it chemical? Is it mental, psychological, as a result of physical treatment? So on and so forth. There's 1,000 different causes, reasons, varieties. It's just an insurmountable. It's a huge amount. There are many different. Is it even proper to say that people can be misdiagnosed as having depression? I think if someone feels depressed, that is the very definition of having depression, and that they should get the same kind of help and have help from others that someone who is has some kind of a clinical illness associated with it should get. But anyway, with all that said, I think that's kind of why my opinion of it is sort of odd in a way. And I say odd because I don't think a lot of people would agree with me in that there are lots of different forms of depression. And I mean, it's such a touchy subject that I've had to learn over the years, essentially just not to bring it up because I don't know enough about it. And the very, very first thing that someone who has depression will say is basically, mind your own business. You don't know anything about it, And I've been pretty careful to do that, but I do get requests often to try to talk about it, especially from those who have depression. A few friends of mine over the years have had it. They've asked me how I've combated it, often in a way that they feel that it's something that it just naturally happens to people, and that there must therefore be a way that I have defeated it, as though I've slayed some dragon with some unobtainable sword. Now, for me, I think here's why I think that it's there. Like I was trying to explain, there are lots of different varieties. There are lots of different ways of being depressed. none less serious than the other. And I think that while growing up, if I had continued treating myself or looking at myself in the way that I was, that I would have had, I would be able to say today that I have depression. Like that is what I feel. And I could be wrong, maybe depression is something tangible that only specific people can get, only certain people have, and if you don't have it, you just don't have it. Maybe that's the case, but I feel like deep in my heart that had I not changed who I was and how I felt about myself and the actions of others towards me and so on, I do feel like I would have had some sort of depression. And that's all there is to it. Like, I feel like I would be depressed right now. And for quite some time, I do think that I was depressed. I can say with some certainty that I was not happy. I never had thoughts of like suicide or self-harm or, that kind of thing. But the thoughts that I was worthless, the thoughts that I didn't matter, the thoughts that, I had no impact on the world, the thoughts that I would never find love, the thought that I would never amount to anything. It goes on and on and on and on. And I've had those thoughts. And I had those thoughts for a very long time. Well into high school, for sure. Which, when you're that age, and it's sort of going off on a tangent, and I hope I can circle back to this point. But when you're young, I think depression is much, much, much more impactful. At least this is my personal opinion, because it changed for me. And I can see how naive I was. But when you're a kid, little things matter, If someone makes fun of the way you dress, it matters. But when you're an adult, who cares? It's that kind of thing. Where when you're a child, because even in high school, you are a child. I don't mean to offend anybody, but it's just the facts. Often you aren't a legal adult until you're just graduating high school, and by then you still don't really know much. But what I'm trying to say is, really, there's no easy way. No, what I'm trying to say is, I think that when I was in high school, things like that mattered way more to me, and I'm very thankful that I was able to grow out of that kind of mentality in some way. That I think that had I not learned what was good for me, that I would have been depressed now. But it does get better. You hear that so often. It seems like a cliche. It'll get better. There's always a brighter side of things, greener grass on the other side of the fence, and so on. As cliche as that sounds, it's true, and it's so impossible to convince, if that's the right word, to make someone who has depression truly believe that idea. It just doesn't happen. And I wanted age to sort of, like I said, I wanted to circle back to that because, age, you feel depressed, for some trivial reasons sometimes. But this is still, like I said, depression is depression, and no form of it is to be taken lighter than the other. But when you're young, you feel depressed for even the smallest things. Oh, I didn't get asked to prom. Oh, I can't afford that new video game. And these, it sounds ridiculous, but I've seen it all before, and I've heard it all before. People getting depressed for trivial things like that. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. Actually, that can stay like that. But what was I saying? Basically, I wanted to talk about this because, like I said, I felt this way when I was growing up. And in talking with people, it's often just a confidence boost that they need. As ridiculous as that sounds, it's true, you know. Confidence boost, who knew? Actually, I need to line this with dirt is the best thing. Yeah. So it's been 10 minutes. I haven't talked about anything really that I wanted to talk about yet. And it's because it's such a sensitive topic. Like I said, I can't do justice to it. I know I can't. And I've been told many times by people who have depression not to talk about it because I just can't do it justice and I won't help and nothing I say will help anyway. And that's the way that someone with depression feels. And, it's a mess. But I did want to start by trying to at least say that, you know, I want to be sort of relatable in that I did feel like I could have had depression and I was edging on it. Maybe I did have some kind of a form of depression, but I got over it in some way and I'm one of the lucky few, or I don't know. My point is that the way that I quote unquote got over it is that I sort of touched upon this in the topic comment jam where, you know, I just feel confidence in myself. I love myself. I have sort of this weird, almost narcissism, you know, and I don't really take it that seriously. You know, as much as I feel like, you know, oh, I'm so special and I'm amazing and I look great and I feel great and I'm happy and, you know, I don't care what anybody else says. As much as I say all that, you know, there's always a humble part of me that doesn't think that I'm worth it. That doesn't mean, though, that I'm depressed or that I feel worthless. I know that I have worth. And it's something that I'm very confident that I had to learn. And that's kind of why I feel maybe there is something to be said. Maybe I do have something to say. You know, I had to learn my confidence. It wasn't something that came naturally, as some people might suspect. You know, and I've had horrible, terrible things happen in my life with friends, with family. I struggle every single day with, you know, the hardships of just being an adult. You know, that alone, being an adult, is hard enough every day that, you know, if I weren't a stronger person, I don't know how I'd be coping with it. And it's something that I've had to learn. I had to learn how to get over it. To the point where I confidently can say that I don't have depression. And I think I actually truly believe that telling myself that somehow, it sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy. Telling myself that I don't have depression helps me get over depression. And maybe that's the first step. I don't know. If you feel depressed, if you're feeling like there's no way out, like you're worthless, like it's hopeless, whatever thing that you're depressed about, even if it's about love, romance, you won't find someone, you'll be alone forever. You know, whatever makes you sad, depressed, lonely, all of those sort of similar feelings, you know, maybe the first step is you know, admitting the first step is admitting you have a problem. But it's sort of true, maybe, but in reverse, because it feels like when I talk about depression, if I can confidently say I don't have depression, that alone somehow helps me maybe sort of swing back to reality and realize, you know, yeah, I don't have depression, and there are some wonderful things in life, and I am lucky to have what I have, and there are people who have worse. Well, it's not always a good idea to compare yourself to others and stuff, but I do find also that it does help to say, like, as wrong of an idea as it might sound, to say, like, well, there are people who have it worse off than me. I could have it worse. I'm not wishing, like, bad luck on myself or anything, but it could certainly be worse than I have it. I've had it pretty good, I feel. And yet I did, like I said, I still feel like I could have been suffering from depression very, very, very easily. It's a really tough topic, guys. I don't even know how to go about this. Like, honestly, I don't know. What am I supposed to say? How? It's so. It means so much to me. It really does. I'm starting to get choked up about it. I mean, it's silly, but I've had so many friends in life who felt worthless and felt depressed and felt like they had nowhere to go and no one to go to the point where, some of them have taken their own lives. They've done terrible things with themselves and to themselves, and it's how am I supposed to talk about it? What can I possibly say to make it better or to make some kind of a difference? Like, it's such an impossibility, I feel like I gotta try, though. I gotta say something, right? But the fact remains is that I don't know enough about it. I haven't experienced it enough. And that, I think, is really, like I say, I could have suffered depression, and I feel like I didn't, and I don't. So I don't feel like who am I to talk about it, kind of thing. What right do I have to talk about it? But I don't know. People want me to. People have asked so many times, talk about depression. To what end? Like, to help people get over it, to help people find help in others. Like, I just don't know. L shape. I'm just trying to focus on this. 1, 2, 3. Yes, this is all correct so far, what I've built. I have to just kind of copy this side down here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and then it reverses and a block underneath. Okay. 1, 2, 3, and it reverses. Boom. Chisel underneath. Got it. So people want me to talk about it, but I don't know what element to talk about or how I can help. On TimeShot, it's been really personal to a lot of people. A lot of people on TimeShot, I feel like, have some form of depression or have known someone who did or does. I don't know. This is such a weird talk, you guys, and I apologize for it. I don't even know really what I'm even saying anymore. My point is, though, that, maybe there is a way to overcome it, like what happened with me. I just started talking confidence constantly. I started, talking myself up. Is that the right way to say it? I think I've done this wrong already. Ugh. Huh? Oh, no. No. This is sort of right. Yeah, this is sort of right. And I go like this. I'm copying this again, I guess. So it's like an I shape. Yeah. Okay. Got it. I can do it. Like that? Something like that. So again, it's been 20 minutes now, and I still feel like I haven't talked about anything important. And it's such a terrible thing, but how can I do it justice? I just can't. But I wanted to say that, like, I did overcome it in some ways. I'm not saying that I was ever truly depressed. I was never medicated. I never felt like it was so bad that I needed to call for help. Terrible things might have happened, but it didn't affect me. I felt like I did have the strength to overcome them. Or maybe I just chose to have that kind of strength. But when push came to shove, I did feel like there were times where I was lost. Yes. But I overcame that. Confidence, 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 confidence. Love yourself so much. You're amazing so much. And I kind of wanted to say something about that too. Like when it came to those friends of mine who were feeling down and feeling depressed and feeling worthless and stuff. And, like, I always felt as their friend like they mattered so much. How could they ever think that way about themselves when they matter so much? Maybe they just needed that assurance. Maybe I should have told them more. Maybe I should tell them more. How much my friends and, the people I spend time with matter to me. I get this reputation as this big troll all the time. Oh no, poet's on the server. Oh no. Gasp, run away, hide. He's just going to do something to prank you or, make fun of you. It's at times I feel bad about that because, I wish I did more of the appreciation showing it, Maybe that would help those who are feeling down. But I'm not sure. I don't know if that would help. Maybe it wouldn't. Like I said, I used to know a lot of people who had depression. I still do. But, sometimes you don't know when someone has depression. But my point is that I had even dated people who had depression. So, very close personal knowledge of it, experiencing it, and being told that regardless of my attempts to help, that my attempts were meaningless, like that's the kind of behavior that would surround it. So I'm not even sure if what I'm saying will help anybody, because for lack of me being able to be polite about it, I mean, it almost feels like when you're talking to someone who has depression that it can be going in one ear and out the other. And I mean that I don't mean that to be cruel. I mean that to be like, someone who has depression can't help it. They just can't. You got to understand that the worst thing is that, people who don't have depression just don't understand what it's like even remotely. And they'll say like, I don't know why you can't be happy. Like, go to a comedy show. That'll make you happy. And it's like, you really just don't have a clue. You just don't have any clue whatsoever about it. It's just so far from. But anyway, it's something that you can't just fix like that, and it's something that you can't really understand if you don't have it. So I can't just say, well, maybe, I got over it, you can too. Like I can't, because that probably won't work. That's why I say seek professional help. Who am I? What do I know? I know nothing. Huh? I'm looking at this. It looks weird. Why did I do that? How does it look on the other side? I have this extra little C shape, backwards C, in the middle blocks. But I don't have it on the edge blocks. So what I've gone and done is up here. Whoop! I fell too far. What I've gone and done, I'm taking an aside from this topic, as you can tell. I've done the extra C shape here and there. What did I just do? Oh no. Wait. Yeah, that's right. Okay. I got it. I got it now. I need to do the C shape again and then the I. If that makes sense. Ugh, this is harder than I thought it would be. But anyway, I just wanted to say that, like, nowadays, for me personally, I find that, maybe it's on account of me, quote unquote, getting over it or changing who I was, changing how I thought. I feel now more than ever that I need that kind of emotional release, that when I was feeling depressed all the time, I was emotional constantly. And then when I decided that I would be positive about myself especially all the time, that it sort of builds up inside of you. The negativity, the hate, the frustrations, builds up. Really to the point where you need to change. You need to have something sad in your life. And it sounds odd, but it's the reason why people watch dramas and go out of their way to listen to sad music. And it's so phony, but I keep remembering back to, there's this episode of Everybody Loves Raymond, okay? So it's this sitcom from the early 2000s, or I think it was from the early 2000s. And there's this one scene where his wife in this sitcom was sitting there crying, and he walked up to her and he was like, "What's wrong? What's wrong? Why are you crying?" And I'm paraphrasing the whole episode, but she basically explained that sometimes you just need a good cry, and he didn't understand why. And she tried to explain that crying felt good, that kind of emotional release. And I've found now that it helps me stay sane. And I think that people maybe with depression don't get that same kind of emotional release. I mean, I could be wrong, but I feel like, it's always just so one-sided, depression. It's never like too much happiness. But essentially that's kind of what I turned depression into, is too much happiness. And every now and again, that happiness builds up to the point where, you know, I just can't take it anymore. I need that emotional outlet, that sadness, that frustration, whatever. Take out your frustrations in a video game. You know, take out your frustrations on, well, not on, a video game is the best way that I do it, you know, so that's the example I use. But then, like, I'll watch movies and stuff, and this is where the sad part comes in, and I love sad movies, and the whole reason I brought up this whole topic and why I kind of thought about it is because, like, earlier today, I was talking to Win, and I was looking up sad movies, and she said, and I said, oh, I hear that this movie's really sad. I'll have to watch that one. And her comment was like, well, why would you want to be sad? And that's when I started to think about this whole process that I go through. You know, why would I want to be sad? And yeah, it sounds weird, but I do enjoy being sad at this point. I like it. I like feeling that emotional release. I would recommend, you know, if you're in the mood for a sad movie to get that kind of emotional release, there are 3 actually that I will mention. They're so depressing. They're so sad. The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. That's number 1 on my list. Like, totally number 1. Movie made me, I admit, I am a very confident, outspoken man. I am a man. And yet I was crying. I cried so hard at the end of that movie. The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. Look it up. Watch it. You'll cry your heart out. And number 2, Marley and Me. You grow so attached to the characters that when things don't go their way, it's just heartbreaking. Again, heartbreaking. And number 3, I think, is called Grave of the Fireflies. It's a Miyazaki film. I think it's a Miyazaki film or one of his understudies. The guy who made Totoro and Flying Castle, and, you know, all those amazing epic animes. Grave of the Fireflies, from like the first 10 minutes or so of the movie, is so it pulls at your heart so much. But the reason I go to these movies and the reason I watch them, like I said, is because they make you feel this kind of a sadness, and then once that sadness is done, it's done. For me, anyway. I have this huge surge of emotion, of feeling, of, you know, just all these thoughts. And then when the movie is done, roll credits, we're done. It's like a sigh of relief, and somehow, some way, I just feel so positive after. Like what I just witnessed was rewarding somehow, and I don't know, it's hard to even explain, but I don't know, maybe I'd recommend that. Maybe it'll make you more depressed. I don't know. But I feel like that's maybe the right way, if there is a right and wrong way, is to have these sort of like emotional bursts, like these bursts of emotion. Get it out of your system and then move on. Continue being that confident, amazing person that doesn't take, you know, whatever anybody else says to heart. Have these really heartfelt moments, even if it's through someone else's eyes, like in a movie or in a song or, you know, whatever. Even if you have to take out your frustrations on some video game character, on a boxing bag, punching bag, you know, whatever. You know, whatever gets you that emotional release, you know, do it. And it truly helps. It can be so rewarding. But yeah, I just kind of, I think that's where I'm going to end it. Like I didn't, it wasn't so much a talk about depression as it was a talk about emotions in general. And what is this? Edson's enchantment stall now open. Aw. Well, that's nice. I like that. I actually bought like 2 or 3 mending books. At least 2. I got 3 on me, so I must have bought 3. 4. I bought 4 books. I bought 4 mending books. No, I made one. I made one from Villagers. So I bought 3 mending books from Edson, and he just gave me one. So that's cool, because I need to have one for my helmet. So that's awesome. Good. Freebie. Guess I should get one for my sword too eventually. But like I said at the beginning, if you're suffering, or if you feel like you are, or if something's just not right, there are lots and lots and lots of people to talk to. I know that a lot of people have said that even watching YouTube videos like my videos have helped them somehow get over their sadness, if they're feeling sad, if they're feeling, not themselves. Watch my videos and then they're happy. I don't know how. I don't know why. But whatever you do to find that emotional freedom, release, whatever, go do it. If nothing seems to help, you have to find help. We donated on TimeShot to Twala to write Love on Her Arms, which is a organization that finds help for people who have those kinds of mental illnesses. It'd probably be one of the first places I'd look if you need the help. And I wish you the best of luck. Like, just absolutely, genuinely mean that. Like, I really know it can be hard. It's obviously really very hard. And I unfortunately can't really relate. I wish I could in some way. But, you can do it. I know you can. I've seen others overcome it. In some very, very small way, I feel like I've overcame it in some way. So don't give up, And especially the case if you're young. I can't reiterate that enough with all the stuttering and all. I especially mean, like, and this is the circle. I wanted to go back to this point. If you're young, you hear of 12-year-olds, 12 years old, taking their lives because of feeling depressed, feeling like they're being bullied too much, or feeling sadness, that they're worthless. Your life is going to change so much. My life changes so much every single year, and I'm in my 30s now. I'm so glad that I continued to grow and learn. And if you're young and you're feeling like things aren't going to get any better, I'll be honest, you're just I'm being honest, you're too young to make that decision for yourself. Honestly, it sounds awful. You can't make a decision for yourself about how you feel, but I'm telling you, you'll look back. Everybody I know, even those who still have depression of some sort, can look back 10 years ago, 20 years ago, some of them, 30 years ago, and just kind of shake their head and laugh about how they acted and how they were and how they thought. Don't take drastic measures when things change as much as they can. And you know what? The best change you can make is just your current way of thinking about things. Like, I'm not saying that right, but things can change so rapidly. So rather than take drastic measures, why not try to be positive, you know? I don't know. I can't say that. I'm mumbling and stumbling and doing probably all the wrong things. I've now stopped building. I'm just looking back and forth. It's been nighttime several times, daytime in this Minecrafty world several times. It's been 40 minutes. I still don't feel like I've done justice to this whole conversation. But I think I made my biggest talking points clear. That I've talked about now how I used to feel, how I now currently feel, what I do now that helps, and about how much I've changed from when I was young. Boy, that's depressing. Is it good to laugh about it? I don't know. Maybe. I'm a terrible person. At the end of the day, you are the only one who can help yourself, right? So, good luck with it. Wish you the best. It feels like I'm signing off on a letter. I don't know. Either way, that's the end of the episode. Take it for what it is. I can't wait to see the comments. Like this video, comment below, do all those other awesome things you awesome people do. And we'll see you next time on TimeShot. Bye-bye.